시간이 가도 너와도 애틋해지는 건 왠지 내 곁에서 이 옆에서 네 목소리를 들려줘 넌 빛나고
The party was in full swing by the time Jimin and I arrived. The house was packed with people, the music was loud, and the energy was electric. Colored lights flashed across the room, casting everything in a vibrant, surreal glow. We navigated through the crowd, exchanging greetings with familiar faces. Want a drink? Jimin shouted over the music, leaning in close so I could hear him. I nodded and he headed toward the bar while I made my way to the dance floor. The beat was, and soon I found myself dancing with a group of friends, letting the music take over. I lost track of time, caught up in the rhythm and the sheer joy of the moment. Jimin returned with 2 glasses, handing one to me. Here you go, he said, his voice close to my ear. Having fun? Yeah, thanks. I took a sip, the cool liquid a welcome relief. This is awesome! We danced together for a while, laughing and enjoying the night. It felt good to let loose, to forget about everything else for a while. Jimin was a great dancer and we moved in sync. Our chemistry undeniable. It wasn't the first time I'd felt a spark between us, but I always pushed it aside, afraid to risk our friendship. After a while, I felt the need for a break. I'm gonna grab some air, I told Jimin, and he nodded, watching as I made my way to the back patio. Outside, the cool night air was a stark contrast to the inside. I took a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs. The stars were out, twinkling above, and I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I wandered to the edge of the yard, enjoying the quiet. Hey, a voice said behind me, and I turned to see a guy from the party. He was tall, with dark hair and an easy smile. Hi, I replied, smiling back. I'm Namjoon. He introduced himself, extending a hand. I shook it. Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan. We chatted for a bit, finding common ground in our love for music and mutual friends. He was charming and funny, and I found myself relaxing, enjoying the conversation. After a while, the music inside drew us back in, and we ended up on the dance floor again. Namjoon was a good dancer, confident and smooth. We danced close, moving together in time with the music. It was fun and I let myself get lost in the moment. I noticed Jimin watching us from the edge of the dance floor, his expression unreadable. I gave him a quick smile, but he didn't smile back. Instead, he turned and disappeared into the crowd. I felt a pang of concern but pushed it aside, focusing on the dance. As the night wore on, I danced with a few other friends, always aware of where Jimin was. He seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. his mood growing darker as the night progressed. I caught glimpses of him talking to people, but he always seemed distant, distracted. Finally, it was time to leave. I found Jimin in the bar, leaning against the counter with a drink in his hand. "Ready to go?" I asked, trying to read his expression. He nodded, setting his glass down. "Yeah, let's get out of here." The ride home started off in silence, the tension between us palpable. I watched the city lights blur by, my mind racing. Something was clearly bothering him, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. "Jimin," I said softly, breaking the silence. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," he snapped, his tone than I'd ever heard from him. "Don't give me that," I pressed, turning to face him. "What's got you?" Without warning, he swerved the car to the side of the road, the tires skidding slightly on the gravel shoulder. He parked and turned to face me, his eyes dark and stormy. You are the problem." I blinked, taken aback. "What did I do?" For a moment, he just looked at me, his gaze intense. Then, in a swift motion, he unbuckled my seatbelt and pulled me onto. My hands landed on his shoulders for balance, while his settled just above. The contact sending a shiver down my spine. What are you doing?" I stuttered, my heart racing. "You danced with that guy," he almost screamed, frustration evident in his voice. "And you even let him hold you?" It took a second for his words to sink in, and then I remembered. On Namjoon, during the party, lost in the music and the moment. "So why are you mad?"
Cody,
I asked softly. He sighed, his head resting against my. "Because I'm jealous," he admitted, so quietly I almost missed it. Before I could think, my hands cupped his face and I pulled him into a. It was desperate, like we were both pouring out all the unspoken words and hidden feelings into that single moment. When we finally broke apart, I looked into his eyes, my voice firm. "You have nothing to be jealous about," I said, my thumb brushing against his cheek. "I'm yours." His eyes softened and he gave me a smile that melted my heart. "You are mine," he echoed, his voice full of wonder and relief. He pulled me into another, This one softer, more tender. We stayed like that for a while, the rest of the word fading away. Eventually, he pulled back, resting his forehead against mine. I wanted to tell you for so long, he confessed, his breath warm against. But I was scared. Scared of what? I asked, running my fingers through his hair. Losing you, he replied simply. You are my best friend. I didn't want to ruin that. You could never lose me, I assured him, my heart swelling with affection. And you didn't ruin anything. If anything, this makes us stronger. He smiled again, a genuine, happy smile that made my heart skip a beat. I loved you, he whispered, the words wrapping around us like a warm blanket. I loved you too, I whispered back, feeling a sense of peace settled over me. We stayed there for a while longer, savoring the moment. Eventually, we knew we had to get going, but the drive home felt different. The tension was gone, replaced by a newfound sense of connection and understanding. As we pulled up to my house, Jimin turned to me, his eyes shining with emotion. Good night, he said softly, leaning in for one last. Good night, I replied, feeling like the luckiest person in the world. As I watched him drive away, I knew that things would never be the same, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Promise me that